also thrived, and there were few companies that did layoffs. Companies saw record high earnings, with the top tech companies earning a combined $1.4 trillion in sales. To match this growth in sales, they hired a lot, but by mid 2022,
Yeah.
this golden age seemed to be turning a corner when smaller companies started to announce layoffs. On June 2022, there were about
Yep.
60,000 tech workers laid off, and the situation only seemed to worsen as more and more companies announced layoffs and started to include some of the most profitable companies like Meta and Amazon. Now the situation has only worsened. As we near the end of Q1 in 2023, over 94,000 tech workers were laid off just this quarter. Some from
Damn.
large tech companies like Google and Microsoft, and many companies have announced a hiring freeze, putting a screeching halt to the rapid hiring over the past 2 years. It's a very scary time for new grads who are promised a bright future, for laid off employees who are navigating this tough hiring environment, and for current employees who are wondering if they're going to be next on the chopping block. Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Pacola, a tech worker living in the New York City, Jersey City area. I wanted to make this video for a while because I've been seeing so much nonsense online about the tech layoffs and the reasons why it happened. I know we're right now at the tail end of the tech layoffs discussion, but I thought, let me just do a more comprehensive video going through all the details of the tech layoffs, from why the tech layoffs happened, which employees were impacted, severance. We'll talk about severance, and we'll also bring in a person who was impacted by the layoffs to just give more insight and information about the tech layoffs. So we're getting into the actual tea.
Hi everyone, my name is Betty, and I was previously at Microsoft working at.
Oh, I know Betty. Betty, she's a content creator on TikTok. She does the same thing, like create content and stuff. Oh, that's dope.
As a technical program manager for their mixed reality capture studios team.
How did you find out about the whole layoff and everything? I know the news got leaked a little bit before Microsoft announced it to their employees, but maybe you can walk us through your story.
As you mentioned, we heard it through different media outlets, through the internet, that massively.
No, I'm not gonna lie though. Like hearing that you're about to get laid off through the media is crazy. Like that's bro, that is so messed up on so many different levels. And that's the reason why I'm not gonna say the company name, but if you know, you know. During my time there, they had like 2 back-to-back layoffs, and the CEO kept saying there weren't going to be any more layoffs, but there were indeed more layoffs. And I don't know. I get it. I understand as a leader, a CEO, and things like that. You can't just go out and say stuff like that. You got shareholders and all that you have to deal with, but you got to do something, bro. It's kind of messed up for people to hear about this in the news. That's in my opinion. Like even right now, like the CEO of my company right now, very transparent about everything that's going on, and I really appreciate that. But yeah,
Layoff was coming for Microsoft. I remember the morning of. I did not have any meetings for that afternoon on my calendar, and then at around 10 a.m. I received an invite. Once they invited us to the Teams meeting, that's where they had announced that we were being laid off. I was pretty taken back because it wasn't just my team that was laid off, but my manager and my manager's manager was also laid off.
Let's hop into it by first starting to discuss what actually happened. Why did companies decide to lay off so many tech workers? I'm not an economist, but the long story short is that it all has to do with the economic situation that was happening in 2022. There are some key factors that you need to know about, 5 key things that were happening all simultaneously. You have inflation. In 2022, the Consumer Price Index discovered that inflation was at 9.1%, which is extremely high. Inflation is usually supposed to be around 2 to 3% every year. Because of this inflation, businesses were seeing increased expenses and people began to buy less because of these high prices. So businesses decided to cut back on their advertising spending. And we know there are a lot of tech giants like Meta.
so this is where you start to see a lot of companies they're scaling back and having layoffs. But you got to think about it. She's probably going to go into it, but you got companies like what the hell? Okay, anyways, but yeah. So with companies like that, the majority of their revenue is coming from ads. So advertisement, marketing, etc. Like you got Google, Facebook, not even like Netflix, but companies that's having ads, TikTok, all this stuff like that. And typically when it comes to like the economy going down, the first thing that people are going to cut is their marketing budget. And with people cutting down on the marketing budget, that means these large scale companies can no longer use Facebook ads, use Google ads, TikTok ads, and wherever the case sales that they can do. That is crazy. Yo, what are y'all talking about
Facebook,
here?
Google, who all depend on other businesses spending money on advertising. So they saw a decrease in their revenue because of the reduction in ad spending. Another thing too that was happening.
Yo, time out. What is going on in the comments right now? All right,
Around
we're
this
gonna go
time
back.
was high interest rates. If you remember during the pandemic, the Federal Reserve reduced interest rates to 0% to help prevent economic.
So do I think they hired a little? Overhired a little through the pandemic. No, I don't think they overhired a little. I think they overhired a lot, like by a lot. Cause you got to think about it. Like Facebook, like Mark, he completely renamed Facebook to Meta because of the metaverse. Like he changed his entire business model, banking on the whole thing of VR and virtual reality, crypto and stuff like that. Like everyone thought that was going to be the next big thing. And I'm getting like I'm not going to say it's not. It probably definitely could, but I just feel like we're a while away from that just really being something. At least what people are trying to make it seem like. And so now that's why everyone's trying to do AI now. Like you send all this stuff about AI. Bro, AI nowadays is just basically what crypto was last year. Like AI has always been around. It's nothing new. Everyone's saying, hey man, AI is going to take over jobs. AI is going to do this. AI is going to do that. Bro, if anything, AI is just going to help us do our jobs better. And if AI is taking your job, that means your job was never that important. So yeah, AI it does not have the capability to take anyone's jobs right now, at least in the space that I'm at.
Disaster. But by 2022, because of the high interest rates, the Federal Reserve needed to find a way to mitigate inflation, so they decided that they would increase the interest rate, and they ended up increasing the interest rate 7 times. With higher interest rates, this directly impacts tech companies. Now it's more expensive to borrow money, so they're less likely to be borrowing money and investing in new initiatives and taking risks. This also directly impacts VCs and startups because it's so expensive to borrow money, they're less likely to be putting more money into new and risky startups, and they're less likely to invest in companies because of the economic uncertainty. The third thing that was happening during this time was the fear of a recession. Because of the high inflation, the high interest rates, and there was also a slowdown in economic growth for 2 quarters in 2022, there was just this general sense that we were coming on a recession. You only had to look in the news to see that every single day.
Shout out for the subs.
We were getting really close.
I appreciate that.
Finally, we have investor pressure. By Q3 and Q4, investors were really pressuring tech companies to cut spending. Because the share prices were down and earnings were a lot lower, these investors were really encouraging tech companies to lay off and reduce headcount. For example, TCI Fund, which holds a $6 billion stake at Google, wrote a letter to Sundar, the CEO, asking them to reduce headcount and to lay off employees. Finally, the next reason that a lot of the tech companies cite as why they decided to lay off employees was because of overhiring during the pandemic.
Yep.
As I mentioned before, Meta doubled their headcount during the pandemic, and Google hired over 50,000 employees. Specifically, in a lot of the statements that the CEOs released to their employees, they mentioned that it was because of overhiring. That's why they decided to lay off employees. So those are the main reasons why the tech companies were doing layoffs. I just want to be very specific that it was mostly economic reasons. I'm not an economist, so I'm happy that you guys bared with me through this point. Now let's keep going. So how did tech companies decide who they wanted to lay off? A common misconception that people think is that tech companies decided to lay off people because of performance reasons. This is not the case. At least I know at my company, they hadn't even completed performance reviews before they did the layoffs. You'll see this also in some of the letters that CEOs wrote.
Honestly, bro, so when it comes to layoffs, so sometimes, like she said, it has nothing to do with like performance or anything like that. A lot of the times, you can just probably be an individual that's probably like the highest paid person on your team. And it's like, oh well, we can cut that, like he's gone, and find somebody else to do the same exact job for cheaper. So that's a lot. A lot of companies end up doing that as well too. Like they'll get rid of some positions, like higher up positions that's getting paid the most amount of money, etc., and go in and just go rehire other people. And that's also another reason why I say in this economy in today's economy, entry level people or entry level software engineers, security engineers, product managers, whatever the case may be, entry level positions are going to have a tough time getting to this industry now, and this specific time space. It's going to be extremely competitive because the simple fact of you got all of these tech workers getting laid off. You have thousands of engineers, you have thousands of whatever. You have a lot of talent in this pool. And seeing there are companies like Facebook, Microsoft, Netflix, Salesforce, and like big tech as a whole is having layoffs. So now with that happening, they're probably now about to go to like different industries such as like finance, banking, insurance, real estate. Like they're going to be working at these type of companies now, like the lower tier companies that typically people don't really talk about when it comes to working in like the tech space. And now they're going to fill in those positions, and it's going to be extremely hard for entry level people to get into those jobs because now you have a flood of all this talent. So now it's like you have to be even more competitive. You have to do more labs. You have to especially network a lot more now because not only is it extremely competitive, like those six-figure salaries that everyone is talking about on social media and stuff like that. I'm not going to say it's not happening anymore, but it's going to be extremely difficult for an entry-level person to come into this industry and demand six figures. It's not going to happen. Like, it can happen, don't get me wrong. It can happen, but the likelihood of that happening is slim to none.
To lay off employees. Most of the layoffs were decided based on projects and initiatives that they decided that they didn't want to be investing time and money on. For example, if you look at the layoffs at Twilio, they said specifically that they were laying off people in a specific business that they decided that they didn't want to invest money on. So a lot of the layoffs didn't have to do with employee performance. I really want to emphasize that because that's a common misconception that I've seen all over the internet. It didn't have to do with performance. It was just about whatever strategic bets the companies were deciding that they wanted to stop investing in.
Create an amazing website with Fiverr. You'll need your web developer, UX writer, and Amy, a Fiverr freelance graphic designer.
I have an idea based off of like what I've talked about with my other coworkers and just like what other people who have insight on why this is happening during a recession. The first one was for quarterly earnings. A lot of companies are wanting their quarterly earnings to look good, so making sure that they're performing well.
So basically, don't think about the money while trying to get into cybersecurity. All right, so I didn't say that. I'm not gonna lie. If I'm going to do a career, I want to make sure I am getting paid. My thing is, because you entry level, you're trying to get into there, the money is going to be more of a long-term type of thing, honestly. Like, you can't immediately go in and say, hey, I want $115,000. It's not going to happen. Like, you don't even have the skill set to do that. And why would I give you $115,000 when I can go probably hire a senior level engineer for the same pay, have way more experience, come in and do a lot more than you? You got to think about it like that. But, yeah, it's long-term wise.
Reason is to rearrange the market, and now they can hire.
Can we acknowledge in real life women do not be this fine in the office? Oh man, I can agree with that one.
For less than what you were getting paid. Another reason would have to be because other companies see other companies doing it. It's like we should be getting rid of people too. I also feel like
I agree with that as well too. Like, certain companies was just like, all right, we're gonna wait. We're not gonna be the first ones to do it, but when we get someone like Google or something like that to do it, we are gonna do it because it's fine then. Like, everyone throwing rocks. Okay, cool. We're gonna let ours off. We're gonna let ours off too. That's basically what the tech layoffs were. Like, companies, they knew they was going to lay off people, but they didn't want to be the first ones to do it. So it had to be like one of the giants to do it to set the pace. Once they set the pace, everybody was like, all right, cool, we good to go. Lay them off. She's not lying there.
like companies took this as an opportunity to get rid of projects that they feel like we should have gotten rid of this project a long time ago, but no one spoke up and said something earlier. The news and quarterly earnings are your best bet for trying to understand what is going on with your business and potentially what is the future of your business. I remember when I first started working in the industry, I didn't really pay attention to quarterly earnings because I'm not that higher up, so it's like, what does this have to do with me? And I will say there are higher up decisions and reorgs that really don't impact you and have nothing to do with you. But how well your org is doing, you have to pay attention to. But I would have to say quarterly earnings and reports really kind of help you.
Yeah, no, that is good though. And another thing as well too though, like you want, like I know like my company or these companies that I've worked at, we have like weekly town hall meetings where like the CEOs like giving updates on, you know, how the business doing that week, what financials, like what problems are we dealing with, and also having like Q&As. Like it is very important that you attend these meetings and understand what is going on in the company. Because if you're waiting like to quarterly reports and stuff like that, it might be too late. But also I work for a private company right now. So like when you public financials, like public institutions, stuff like that, our financials are like open to the public to see before they're open to release anything like that. So honestly, when it comes to like public and private companies, it is a little bit more different because they not necessarily, they can be as open as they would like. Because, you know, you have shareholders and all the stuff like that. But attend those townhouse meetings so you can understand what the hell is going on at your company. And most of the time, like if you're on Blind as well too, Blind is an app or website. It's called Team Blind app. And a lot of people go in there and probably whistleblow or like, hey guys, have you heard about this? Talk with them. And they be dropping a lot of stuff that's going on. Like I know when I was working at Robinhood before the layoffs happened, like someone actually came into the group or came to the Blind group and was like, hey guys, we're having layoffs this week. And lo and behold, we had layoffs. So if you are like at one of these big tech companies or even a smaller tech company, like just a tech company in general, if you go to Blind and download and sign up using like your company email address and stuff like that, they'll assign you directly to the company chat room, and everything is anonymous. And you can literally have a conversation, talk about anything, and no one will know what you like, who you are. But the thing is, though, you got to be careful because I know sometimes when it comes to certain orgs, certain departments, only that particular org and department may know about that certain thing. So if you go in there and say something, then we know what department it came from or where it leaked or whatever. So you kind of got to be careful with certain information. I'm not telling you go be a whistleblower in those groups and stuff like that, but I'm just saying if you are one to kind of keep up and really know what's really going on, being a Blind is especially a good place to be. Oh.
You paint a picture of what could be next.
Finally, let's talk about the severance that tech companies gave employees. There was a wide range of different severances. You had from a few weeks to the best severance, which was Salesforce, which was a minimum of 5 months that employees were paid out. But even with a generous severance, it's still a scary time for employees because some people, you know, they might be on H-1B visas and they might have to leave the country and they might not be able to find a job in the amount of time that they're allowed to stay in this country without a job. So it's just a
That's
very
crazy.
sensitive situation. Even with severance is not always as good as, you know, maintaining your actual job. So now let's talk about the future. What are your thoughts about the tech industry moving forward?
I'm not leaving. I don't plan on leaving. I think Morgan DeBon the Glavity CEO. She made a video explaining that I don't want to minimize the layoffs, but like a very small portion of the entire industry was laid off. So when we see like numbers like, 10,000 people have been laid off, 6,000 people have been laid off.
That's what I be trying to tell people when they be seeing like these mass layoffs and stuff like that. It's like, wow, like 10,000. Do y'all understand how many employees Google have? Like, let's look at this. Google employee count. Bro, 190,000 people. They have 100, and honestly, that's from 2000. Oh wait, what year is this? Okay, yeah, bro, that wasn't even 10%. It was like what, 5% maybe. So like when you look at like a number wide of things, like it sounds bad, but when you think about like the amount of people they employ, it's not that bad. Like it's really not. Like don't get me wrong, like I still think it's kind of messed up for just like laying people off out of the blue, but they could have laid off way more people than what they did. Like $10,000 people. That's a drop in a bucket, especially after they had a 21% increase over the year. That's pretty good in my book. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it
laid off,
still
like,
sucks, but
you have
that's
to look
still
at
pretty good.
what percentage of the entire industry is being laid off. There are still plenty of jobs in the industry. There will continue to be jobs in the industry. And for interns, you will be fine. You will get an internship. There are a lot of companies that are still having their internship programs. Companies still want to invest in people straight out of school. They still have to think about talent for the future. You may not get to work on like the funnest projects, but remember this time and think about like, do you want to work on a fun project or do you want to work on a stable project? So I would also think about like, what is an essential part of the business that they need to continue running? And so I would look into roles like that moving forward.
Absolutely true. And that's why when I say when it comes to like software engineers or product managers or whatever, just working in certain departments, like whatever department or what project you're working on is very important. Because let's just say, like, say for instance, if you're working at Meta or Instagram, well, Instagram owns Meta, but still it's a different department. And you're working on something like stories, like IG stories, versus someone that's working in like VR or the metaverse or anything like that. The person that's working on like IG stories or, you know, the UI or anything like that, those people are going to be there. Instagram is steadily bringing in money. VR wasn't really quite there yet. Like, it was probably bringing in money, but it was not profitable. Instagram department, Instagram, IG, whatever, all that's profitable. It's those new projects and stuff like that where it hasn't really proved itself. Those are the teams that's going to be laid off. Unless they just, like, they want to bet it all on there, like, on that particular thing, which most of them not. Like, there's just risk tolerance and stuff like that. That's, But, yeah, being on an important team is very, very crucial to avoid being on layoffs. That's why most security engineers, you don't really see a lot of them getting laid off. I'm not saying they don't get laid off, but you just don't see it happening because we're vital to the company. They need us.
How would you have prepared for layoffs? Like, another thing I want to just give people is maybe some advice. Like, they can start preparing now. Like, how would you prepare for a layoff?
If you are someone that has been laid off, pick up those projects you didn't pick back up or you started and never finished. You don't know where that project will take you. So give it another try. Whether your company is going to lay off people or not, in this industry, I feel like you should always interview at least once a year, maybe even every 6 months. Just to
She better than me. Once a year? Woo! Shit, once a month for me. I got to keep my interview skills freshen up all the time. Sometimes, like, I used to tell people this, like, back in, like, my Twitter days when I was always on Twitter. Hey, bro, I would take an interview knowing I have no intentions of taking a job offer if I get it. I just want to see what the current market is at when it comes to money, what skill set people are looking for, and just to keep my interviewing skills sharpened. Because, again, if you're someone that's been at a company for 3, 4, 5 years and the landscape of tech changes so fast and you're still stuck on like the technology that the company that you was using, you're still stuck on the technology that the company you was at was using, bro, you're not going to, what is that? What is it? Like, you're going to look so, I'm not going to say you're going to look dumb, but you're going to feel out of place because it's like it has changed so much and everything that you was doing at your job was extremely repetitive. And so for me, like, I'm always interviewing. Like, I can have no intentions of joining the company whatsoever, but I still want to see what the interview process is like. Now, if they offer me a ton of money, I'll think about it. Hey, I'm going to leave. But for me, it has to be like a huge increase in the money. Like, if I'm making $110,000 per year and a job is offering me like $120,000 a year, $125,000, I'm not leaving. That doesn't do anything. Plus, here at this company, I'm very comfortable. I know what's going on. I have, seniority, whatever. Like, people know me. I have a little authority here. So it's now I'm leaving and going to another company for only like a $10,000, $15,000 increase. That's not going to do it for me. Now, if it's a $10,000, $15,000 increase on top of sign-on bonuses and on top of like a lot of stock, might. But overall, just a bump in base salary isn't going to do it for me. I got to it got to be a complete package. Like, if I'm going to leave my job, like, my complete package has to at least be like 50 to 100,000 more than what I'm currently getting paid. And when I say complete package, I'm talking about stock, sign-on bonus, all that. But now I'm even kind of getting to the point where, like, my base salary is probably not going to increase that much more unless I'm going to, like, management or something like that. So it's really now based on, like, stock and sign-on bonus at this point. Because I don't really see anyone else going as high as where I'm at right now. It probably would, but I don't know. But that's just kind of my thing on that.
Kind of see your market value within the market, and also to see what is out there for you to learn. Another thing is to like stay on top of your skill set and stay on top of like skill sets that are needed in the market so that you stay marketable. Yep. And then another thing would obviously have to be, you know, make sure you have that 6-month savings cushion.
I agree.
Agreed.
I think being financially prepared and just making sure your skill sets, like you said, are up to date. Very, very good advice.
Have in place certain like routines and structure of how you plan on like taking care of your mental health, as far as like, I don't know, if you're someone who likes to treat themselves to like spa days or going to therapy is not cheap. Maybe also have and set in place options for how you're going to take care of your mental health.
Thank you all so much for watching this video. I know that we kind of talked about a lot of topics, and you might be wondering, what's the future of the tech industry? I'm not an oracle. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but if we can use examples from the past, like the dot-com burst and other, you know, crises that have happened in the tech industry,
let's see what else I got in here. Let's see what else y'all want me to react to. Like, give me some video ideas of what y'all want me to react to.